Chapter 18 of Ruth Fielding at the War Front. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Ruth Fielding at the War Front by Alice B. Emerson. Bearing the Burden. It was dusk before Ruth Fielding arrived at the Clare Hospital after her exciting call at the Chateau Marchand. She had refused to allow Major Marchand to accompany her to the village, for she learned he must be off for the front lines later in the evening, and would in any case have but a few hours with his mother. Ruth had conceived a plan. She had been in serious conference with Major Marchand and the Countess. Neither, of course, knew the particulars of Tom Cameron's arrest at Mers, beyond the German lines. However, they sympathized with her and applauded her desire to help Tom. For there was a chance for Ruth to aid the young American lieutenant. The Major admitted it, and the Countess admired Ruth's courage in suggesting it. The brief announcement of Tom's arrest sent by Count Marchand by Boo-Boo, the greyhound, together with facts that the Major knew, aided Ruth in gaining a pretty clear understanding of Tom Cameron's situation. He had volunteered for this dangerous service and had been assigned to work with the French secret agents on both sides of the battle line. After his own comrade's suspicion was fixed on him, it was decided, Tom agreeing, that he would be able to do better work in Germany. Major Marchand had himself guided the American lieutenant to Mers and introduced him to Count Hilaire Marchand. "And we both consider him, mademoiselle," said the Major generously, "a most promising recruit. We arranged for him to enter Mers in the guise of a wealthy Bavarian hauptmann on leave. Mers, you must understand, was quite a famous health resort before the war. Many foreigners as well as Germans went there to drink the waters. That is why we had a summer estate on the outskirts of Mers." In addition, the Major told of Tom's early successes in getting acquainted with the chief men of the town, particularly with the gouty old Prussian general, who was the military governor of the district. Information which Tom had gained, the Major whispered, had spurred the American authorities in this sector to remove the civilian population for several miles back of the trenches. There was soon to be a surprise attack upon the Americans, and the huge guns being brought up for the bombardment before the infantry advance might utterly wreck the open country immediately back of the American trenches. Tom Cameron, posing as Captain von Brenner, was apparently awaiting at Mers's best hotel the appearance of his sister, who he declared would join him before the conclusion of his furlough. At first the old general and the other authorities had accepted the American at his face value. Somehow, suspicion must have been aroused within the last 24 hours. The message that had come by Boo-Boo stated that Tom was under arrest as a suspicious person, but that he was detained only in the general's quarters. It was something that might blow over. Finesse was required. Ruth had suggested a plan which, although applauded by the Major and his mother, they could not advise her to carry it out, for if it failed, her own peril would be as great as Tom Cameron's. In fact, the result of failure would be that both of them would be shot. But the American girl was inspired for the task. So, urged by the Countess, her son had agreed to assist Ruth in an attempt which he could but approve. Had Count Hilaire Marchand or any of his French operatives in and near Mers attempted to assist in Tom Cameron's escape out of Germany, they would merely lay themselves open to suspicion and possibly to arrest. Ruth saw a code message written to the Count, who was hiding on what had been the Marchand estate before the war, and then saw Boo-Boo called into the library and the twist of oiled paper secreted in the dog's mouth. When the greyhound was released for his return journey to Mers, Ruth likewise left the chateau. A short time later, as has been said, she arrived safely at the hospital in the village. Just as she was about to enter the gateway, a heavy touring car rumbled up the road from the south. It stopped before the hospital gate. There was a uniformed officer on the seat beside the chauffeur, but the only occupants of the tonneau were two women. "We wish to see Miss Fielding," said one of these women, rising and speaking hastily to the sentinel who had presented arms before the gateway. "I shall have to call somebody from inside, mademoiselle," said the old territorial, who was on guard duty. "There is such a name here, I believe." "Never mind calling anybody," Ruth suddenly exclaimed, springing forward. "Miss Fielding is here to answer the call. Will you girls tell me what under the sun you have come here for? I thought you would know enough to remain safely in Paris." "Ruthie!" shrieked Helen Cameron, fairly throwing herself from the automobile into Ruth's arms. "It is she! It is her! It is her ownest self!" "Hold on," said the second occupant of the automobile tonneau, alighting more heavily. "Leave a bit for me to fall on now." "Don't you dare, Heavystone!" cried Ruth. "If you fell upon my frailness—" "Hush! Tell it not in Gath!" cried Jenny, sepulchrally. "I have lost flesh, positively." "Yes," agreed Helen, quite dramatically. She barked her knuckle. "Every little bit counts with Heavy, you know." Ruth welcomed the plump girl quite as warmly as she did her own particular chum. Immediately the military automobile rolled away. The visitors both carried handbags. "How did you come to get here? And where under the sun will you stay?" Ruth demanded again. "Now, never mind worrying about us, Martha," Jenny Stone returned. "We will get along very well. Isn't there a hotel?" "A hotel in Clare?" gasped the girl of the Red Mill. "I should say not." "Very well, dear. We'll put up wherever you say," said Helen airily. "We know you are always a favorite wherever you go, and you must have loads of friends here by this time." "The unqualified nerve of you!" gasped Ruth. "But come in. I'll speak to Madame la Directrice and see what can be done." "But how did you ever get permission to come here?" she repeated. "It is our furlough. We have earned it." "Haven't you earned a furlough yet?" Helen demanded, making big eyes at her chum. "Never crossed my mind to ask for one," admitted the girl of the Red Mill. "But merely your having a furlough would not have won you a visit so near the front." "Really?" asked Jenny. "Do you mean to say that this is near the battle line?" "You'd think so at times," returned Ruth. "But answer me, how did you get your passports vised for such a distance from Paris?" "Forget not," said Jenny, "that Mr. Cameron was over here on government business. Helen can do almost anything she likes with these French officials." "Humph!" was all that came from Ruth in answer to this. "You don't seem glad to see us at all, Ruthie Fielding," cried Helen, as they crossed the courtyard and mounted the steps to the hospital. But Ruth was frankly considering how she could make the best use of her two college chums, now that they were here. In less than 24 hours she expected to leave Clare for an extended absence. She had been troubled regarding her duty to the Red Cross. Circumstances had played into her hands. She could trust Helen and Jenny to do her work here at the Clare Hospital while she was absent. She found the matron and took her aside before introducing her to the newcomers. She did not explain her reason for wishing to absent herself from duty for some days, nor did the tactful Frenchwoman ask after she was told that the Countess Marchand approved. But she told the matron about her two girl-friends who had just arrived so unexpectedly. "They are good girls, and capable girls, and I can show them very briefly my ordinary duties, madame." "It is well, Mademoiselle Fielding," the woman said with cordiality. "Let me now greet your friends." So Helen and Jenny were introduced, and the matron said she would find 2 rooms in the nurses' quarters for the visitors. But first the 3 girls must go to Ruth's little cell and have tea while they talked. "First of all," Helen began, "how is Tommy boy?" "He is perfectly well, as far as I know," Ruth said gravely. "Goodness, you are not mad with him?" "Of course not. How silly," her chum returned. "Well, but you don't see him every day or two?" Ruth Fielding stared at her chum, not alone with gravity, but with scorn. "I think it is well you have come up here to visit," she said. "Don't you know yet that we are in this war, Helen Cameron?" "I don't know what you mean," returned Helen, pouting. "If we were not at war with Germany, do you think I would be away from Ardmore College at this time of year?" "Tom is on active service," Ruth said quietly. "I am rather busily engaged myself. I've seen him just twice since I've been at Clare, but I happened to learn today that, beyond peradventure, he is in good health." "That's good enough," exclaimed Helen. "And I suppose you can get word to him so he'll know Jenny and I are here?" "I will try to get word to him," agreed Ruth, soberly. "He can ask off and come to see us, can't he?" "Not being in military charge of this sector, I cannot tell you," the girl of the Red Mill said dryly. "But if you remain here long enough, I hope Tom will come to see you, my dear." She could tell them no more. Indeed, tonight she did not even wish the girls to know that she proposed absenting herself from the hospital for a time, and expected Helen and Jenny to do her work. She had a burden to shoulder that she could not share with her friends. She sent them to their beds a little later to sleep confidently and happily after their long journey from Paris. As for Ruth Fielding, she scarcely closed her eyes that night. End of chapter 18.